Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Riv after an extremely uh, sad weekend.
Turbulent weekend.
We had uh, we had the shooting at Brown, and of course the horrific attack again on Jews in Australia, and both of those things show, uh, how the society has devolved to a
And
point
don't
where,
forget the attack in Syria on Americans.
yeah, well, those two national guardsmen, yeah, that were shot in Syria, but I was going to take that up as a separate issue because that's a military. That might spark military response. But hey, Gene.
Hi, Gene.
Yeah,
How's it going? Hi, Jeff.
but
Hey, Jeff, I hear they threw you out of New York City.
we've got both of those issues, domestic issues, showing out how the society has devolved to the point where people think violence is acceptable, and as long as it's directed at people they don't like, that's the sign of that's the sign of an unraveling society. Hey, Jimmy. Uh, uh, Australia just was it's incredible. You see that issue. Uh, Hello, everybody. Guys there. What's up? Australia, the prime minister
Hi,
initially
Alphonse.
didn't even mention anti-Semitism. Um, Australia, like the UK and a lot of the European countries, have welcomed in these radical Muslims who, unfortunately, it's we shouldn't say this, but it's to be expected. It's to be expected. These people's uh, they believe that they're instructed by their religion to fundamentally kill people who are not Muslims if they don't want to convert, or if they're of a particular religion other than theirs. And it was horrifying. And what was more horrifying to me was that during that they were shooting multiple rounds, and there were four police officers on the scene that never drew their weapons. I don't know. How do you explain that? Somebody give me an explanation for that one. I mean, it's Australia, but I mean, people are firing into a crowd of people, and four of them don't unholster their weapon, and it took a civilian, ironically enough, a Syrian civilian, not not a radical Muslim. This not to say, not to condemn the entire, but most of them unfortunately are, uh, and that emigrate to these European countries. Uh, he actually physically attacked the guy, grabbed him, threw him to the ground, and he was wounded, and he's in the hospital. So yeah, well, yeah, Gene. I don't know. They normally do carry, I think, in Australia, but that's what the reports were, that they didn't. Yeah, and as far as the Providence shooting in Brown, what a mess. Um, a lot of the experts in the field, that like they're basically saying, "Wow, they really kind of messed this thing up in the investigation." And Brett and the mayor. I'm a big fan of keeping the people apprised, and they did. They called a lot of press conferences, but you can't tell the people that they're safe. There's a murderer walking around in Providence, or somewhere in the vicinity, probably of Rhode Island, or somewhere. There's a murderer loose. And he said, well, there are no known threats, or we don't suspect anything. Well, did you suspect anything before the shooting? No. The guy didn't send you an email saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to go into Brown and shoot people."
I'm on my way.
Yeah, here I come. Look out. I'm coming. I mean, you know, some of these people are just, uh, they need the camera. And in this day and age of instant news, you get a lot of disinformation because they're so in a hurry. They don't confirm and corroborate the information. And I don't know, the death toll in Australia, is it up to 15? I don't know what the latest count was, but I
I
know
think
that.
I think it was 15.
Huh?
I think so.
Yeah, but I know it initially they were saying 12, 11, 12. It was 11, and it was 12, and then of course over the weekend we had the death of. It's been a real uh, the death of Rob Reiner and his wife,
Killed by his son.
killed by their own son. Another victims of the woke. They had a drug addicted son. They were very wealthy. The kid, I guess, he went to numerous rehabs, and they was rich enough to try to get him cured. But another example of, unfortunately, and I know a lot of people don't take that position. These people have to be. They really, some of them, if they can't be cured, and I know Gene's extremely knowledgeable about this thing, but some of these people belong. They have to institutionalize them until there's a pretty good chance that they're cured. They're never cured, but I mean that they have control over themselves. And from the reports, I guess Reiner, they were at a gathering earlier in the day, and he was arguing with the son, and then later on in the day, he slit their throats. I mean, this society, it's just out of control everywhere, every part of the world now. The UK's overrun with radical Muslims. There's all kinds of, and what are they doing? Instead of addressing the problem, they're trying to cover it up like politicians do most of the time. They're covering up rapes in England, and yeah, well, I defer to Gene on that one. Gene's extremely knowledgeable about that stuff, and as he said, there comes a point when they're committing violent crimes or on the verge of committing violent crimes, they have to be incarcerated. Just like well, we just go back not too far, how long ago when our former mayor Will Flanagan was stabbed by some loony who had numerous run-ins with the law, and they keep, the wokies keep letting them go. The wokies keep going, well, mental illness is a terrible thing. Yeah, you're right. Drug addiction is a terrible thing. Yeah, you're right. But the answer isn't to just let them be homeless, be drug addicted. At one time, we tried to put these people in rehab centers. We tried to put these people in homes. Now they let them live in the street, shoot drugs, and give all the money to the illegals. This is what bothers me. I mean, all the billions of dollars we spend on these illegals. Why can't we do something again? We've devolved, not evolved. Years ago, there was an attempt to fix the problem. Now the politicians have basically given up. They just let them live in the streets. Don't pay attention to them unless the prime minister of China is coming over. Then they clean up the streets, herd them over somewhere else. Let the prime minister of China see clean streets, and then they let them back in. Yeah, it's a good point, Adam. We can go back to that, but we covered that pretty well. I think that Yeah, they should never let their guard down. And the irony is that in Australia, they had a massive, massive slaughter in '96, which again precipitated the idiots thinking that these Looney Tunes will listen to laws. And Australia has some of the most stringent gun laws in the world. Again, based on that 1996, where 30 some people were murdered.
The interesting thing is one or more of the shooters in Australia had licenses to carry firearms.
Yeah.
So think about that for a second.
Well, it proves two things, CJ. It proves, number one, no matter how stringent the licensing procedure is, you can't fix crazy unless you
That's
know
right.
they're crazy. And the second thing is that it keeps saying, and what's their response? They're going to pass even more stringent gun laws and say nobody can have a gun, which unfortunately that's penalizing people who are legitimate and law-abiding gun owners. But the fact is that they don't understand that if you eliminate guns, you don't think there's gun crime in England? Nobody can have a gun in England except the police. There's gun crime. That'll create a black market for guns. You don't think people can get guns? Of course they can get guns.
Hell, a 16-year-old,
I mean, the only
15-year-old
difference is they're not going to break into your house and get a gun, or steal it from you, break into your car, or buy it on the street from somebody who stole it. It's just that, yeah, you're right, Alfie. You can't fix stupid people. They think that, they still haven't. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I think it's kind of a simple, logical thing to believe that criminals don't obey laws. And how do you think that all of a sudden a criminal who by definition violates the law is now going to abide by the gun laws?
Right.
I mean, to me, that's totally illogical. And as far as getting back to Kevin, his attorney made it clear in that letter that that we have more facts, and I've noticed that the dialogue on that really, really, really got toned down after that letter was released, and also, number one, I think that if there's any discussion about it, it's about the people who brought it up in the first place that had no business bringing it up.
And
in that venue.
We already addressed this last week.
Yep.
Okay? We can't keep rehashing shit.
Yeah.
Okay? It's been done. The letter was read from Kevin Aguiar's representation. He laid out the facts. That's it. There's nothing new on it.
Yeah,
if there was something new,
up to Kevin.
Something to discuss.
I think the next move is up to Kevin. If Kevin wants to sue those people, if Kevin wants to do something or call those people out, now it's up to him. His lawyer put out the figures, and if he wants to allow, if he wants to just say, okay, it's over, that's his prerogative. If he wants to stand up in front of the school committee with his lawyer and say, you had no right to bring this up here, it's the wrong, you were wrong.
The wrong venue.
That's right. You can't. It had nothing to do with the school committee. This was an assassination, a character assassination, and you're all assholes. Well, and by the way, he can say that because of the Supreme Court decision that said you can call him anything you want.
That's right.
So, but that's where we go with that one. But yeah, it's a crazy. It's getting crazier by the minute now, and. You see what's happening, and that's the thing. We're looking at it all over the world. We're beginning having problems all over Europe. Now it's down in Australia. We've got it right here at home, and looking at something on the update here. It says that we have an update on a shooting, but I think that's.
Which shooting? The Brown University shooting?
Yeah, I just saw a new
There's
update
a
on my.
press conference going on right now.
Yeah, they're talking about the press conferences going on
Yeah.
now, but they're still looking right. Well, actually, right now they're just saying they're continuing to support the investigation and blah blah blah
Yeah,
blah blah.
it's all bullshit.
Yeah, and I think now they're overdoing it. Look, they get it. They look. I think that they had a press conference to say, look, this is what we got. You don't need. It's either with them. It's either a feast or a famine. You get somebody like Coogan that doesn't tell anybody anything, but then you get these people that Smiley wants to be on TV every 15 minutes. You got to let the police and the law enforcement agencies do their job. And they blew that thing all out of proportion when they brought that. And remember what he was referred to as a person of interest.
Right. He's
Not
still
a
referred
suspect.
to as a person of interest.
Not a
Because
suspect.
as far as I know, he hasn't been charged yet.
No, they released him.
Right.
They released him. And everybody went, oh, you told us. No, they didn't tell you they had a suspect. They didn't tell you the guy was being charged. They didn't tell you. They said he was a person of interest, like anybody. The person fit some scenario that they had. So they brought him in. They checked everything, which is typical procedure for law enforcement. You know, if they say the person was 5'11" and wore a black hoodie, and you're 5'11" and have a black hoodie, and you're in the wrong place at the right time, they might snatch you up and bring you in, question you. And then when they get done questioning you, they find out that you had nothing to do with it, and you go. But that's what law enforcement has to do. They can't let somebody that's 5'11" with a black hoodie walk away if they find out he was in the vicinity of, he was not. They didn't say they had a suspect in custody. No, Alphonse, you're right. No, I blame the court system all the time. Even when the police, this is one of the problems we have with the crime we have today and the things we have today. Once they do get a criminal, they let them go. The police do their job, and they let them go.
Right.
They're back on the street. Look at the one that killed that musician. 100 arrests, and she's still driving a car.
Yep.
With drugs in it. You know, how many times have we seen in New York? Now that they just broke, speaking of that, we segue, and I just saw a report this morning that the former police chief of Washington, D.C. has now been exposed. She was fixing crime data to make D.C. look safer than it really was.
Right.
And even with the fixed data, it was still dangerous, but how horrifically dangerous it was, she was covering it up. So this is why I never listen to when they start reporting, crime's on, guys running for office, all of a sudden, the crime's down. No, it isn't. Like New York City, they reduced felonies to misdemeanors. They threw misdemeanors out. They even took gun crimes and didn't even record them as gun crimes. And that's been proven. I mean, what do you expect today? I mean, the political arm of the country is taking over. No, you're right, Steve. I mean, these radicals, that's what they truly believe. And they don't listen. They don't hide it. They don't hide it. You see them out in the streets in Iran yelling, "Death to America, death to the Jews." They're in Australia. They showed a video that happened only like a year ago over there, where they had literally thousands of people on the steps of some building yelling, "Gas the Jews." and they let it go. And you wonder why now they had this catastrophe? That's you can't do that. Society can't do that. And a government has what did our government say? The preamble to the Constitution. You know, we need to have domestic tranquility. Even the Supreme Court has ruled you can't yell fire in a crowded room. You can't have thousands of people yelling gas to Jews and not expect some mental defective to act out on it. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. Linda's saying, don't forget, raise the age. Yeah. But, well, how about lower the age for people to vote? These pinheads have proven it. Some of them at 30, 25 and 30 don't have a functional brain. And you want these people to vote? Of course the Democrats do, because they don't vote on anything except what's on TikTok. I mean, they're not even, they have impairment of brain development because they spend all their time on all these other social media platforms, and that's what they think the real world is what they hear on TikTok. It's this society is rapidly devolving into chaos, and this is what happened in Rome. Like I said, a wise man once said, America will never be destroyed by an outside power. It will rot from within, and that's what's happening. And that's what's happening in the UK. They let these radical Muslims in, and the thing is, and that's the irony of it, they don't hide it. They don't hide it. They tell you right to your face, you're an infidel, and we want to kill you, and they let them all in. You're right. People should not be sitting in the United States Congress who have allegiance to anybody else except the United States, any other nation. They can't be sitting there saying, I'm a citizen of Somalia, I'm the mayor of Minneapolis, and I'm a Somalian, and my allegiance is to Somalia. I mean, and we let them stay in the country? Oh, well, Trump's trying to get them out, but I mean, it's a problem all over the world. Everywhere they've gone, they've wreaked havoc. Sweden was the safest country in Europe. Now it's one of the most dangerous. They let thousands and thousands of them in. India threw them out for the most part. India had all kinds of problems with them. UK, Ireland, everywhere they go, because they can't assimilate into a society. Their religion prohibits them from assimilating. They can't get along because their philosophy is, you're supposed to be a Muslim. You can't eat pork if I can't eat pork. You have to live like me. You have to be like me. They want a theocracy, which is a religious-based government, like Iran. They don't want, everywhere they go, they want to implement Sharia law and a religious-based government. The Western world does not have that. We have some form of non-religious separation of church and state. No. There's not that. Yeah, very valid question, Steve. They're talking about the absence of a bunch of cameras. And let's face it, it's a pretty affluent neighborhood around there. And maybe the rich people don't want to, they think that it will be intrusive. But in today's world, the more cameras, the better.
Well, the interesting thing is, according to Brown University Security and their provost, the building was not secure because of finals. But normally, you would be required to use an access card, your ID card, swipe it to gain access to the building. So because it was finals, they throw away security?
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, that's absurd. Yeah, that was a bullshit excuse. And I mean, Stevie's kind of right. Well, it's they refuse to they can't assimilate because it's not. I don't know whether it's a refusal. We could have that debate if a tree falls in a forest, but does anybody hear it? But it's like which came first? Their religion. They have a religion that demands that religion supersedes any the government. That the laws of like it's a theocracy. They can't live in any other form of government except a theocracy, like in Iran. And they can't live in any country that's run any other way. So it's like can't, won't, doesn't matter. They don't. You're right. I mean, but they can't assimilate. Those radicals can't assimilate. Look, they killed themselves. They kill each other. Maybe a lot of people aren't really familiar with the Quran and the Middle East. I happen to be a little bit familiar with them things. Yeah. What we forget that they were killing each other. When we're not there, they kill each other. When we kept them in the Middle East, they killed each other. The Shiites are killing the Sunnis are killing the Shiites and the Sunnis kill the Kurds kill the Sunnis, and they've been arguing since Muhammad died who runs the religion. That's why the Shiites and the Sunnis and the Kurds kill each other. They still haven't figured out who runs the Muslim faith. One group says that it's the direct descendants of Muhammad. The other ones say it's the person that Muhammad designated as his, or supposedly designated as successor. So they kill each other. The only time they're ever together, following that old part of the art of war, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, it's when we get there. When we went to Iraq and we lost soldiers going to house over there, the Sunnis and the Shiites and the Kurds are all united against the infidels. You're right, Steve, against us. Any non-Muslim, they'd kill us first. Then they'll kill each other later. Syria. Yeah, they killed two of our National Guardsmen. That's a tragedy too, because again, National Guard are not regular military. They've changed the way the military operates now. In the old days, the National Guard was where you ran to avoid going into a war zone or being deployed anywhere, because you hung around the United States, even during Vietnam. People don't know that during Vietnam that it was harder to get into the National Guard than it was to get into Harvard. Because if you were a college student, you got a deferment. You had to be smart enough to get into college. If you weren't smart enough to get into college, you were going to get drafted. We had a draft.
Which we need to bring back.
Absolutely. But the National Guard was impossible to get into. They waited. George Bush, the first one, I never get the middle names. The first one, the guy that was in charge of the CIA, George W. Bush, not W.H. Bush, but they skipped 3,000 people to get him in the Air National Guard so he didn't have to go to Vietnam. But in the old days, during Vietnam, if you joined the National Guard and you missed the National Guard meeting, unless you were George Bush's son, you missed 2 meetings. The MPs came, grabbed you, handcuffed you, dragged your ass down, and you're in the Army now, and you got sent over. But it was National Guard never went anywhere. Now the United States deploys National Guard to all kinds of places now. They deploy them to Iraq,
Chicago,
Afghanistan, everywhere, now in Syria. Yeah. And you got to feel really, military personnel, they sign up, they got a hitch, you got to do your time. And when you sign up, they can send you into a war zone. But, the National Guard, these guys, they go in on a weekend, they spend 2 weeks and stuff. and they're there mostly. I mean, if there's a world war or something like that, but they're deploying these guys. Look at the two that the two, and speaking about the two that were shot in D.C. I saw this morning on the national news that the second guardsman that was shot in the head is making and I'm not my words, but theirs, is making a miraculous recovery, and that's great news.
Yeah, they said that they had discharged him from the hospital. He went home.
They said he's in a rehab this morning. Though.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because I think he's got to get some stuff, but yeah, we got to send a message. See, I agree, and Trump's the guy to send the message. If we had guys like Jimmy Carter, they had our hostages for a zillion years. Then as soon as Reagan, they're afraid of people that are going to do something. They're afraid of America's might, but only when we have a leader that will exercise the might of America, and all the wokies will cry again about, let's worry about the people driving the drug boats and shit like that. Well, that's not the way you end danger. Look at World War II. We would have lost another million men at least if they tried to invade Japan. So what did they do? As horrific as it is, they bombed two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, with an atomic bomb, and they incinerated the places. And Japan surrendered. And everybody to this day, there's a debate whether we should have done it or not. Well, the prevailing side was it's better to incinerate two cities in Japan than lose 1 million American Marines and Army trying to take the islands of Japan. It gets back to a simple concept, just like they don't understand that criminals don't agree laws, that the average person doesn't understand that there's no rules in war. War is a horrible, horrific thing. And there are tremendous consequences when you go to war. And if people actually realize that, they'd be less prone to go to war. And this is it. If you ever watch the movie Hamburger Hill, which is a story about a hill in Vietnam, at the end of that movie, the futility of war, of the guys that went up and down that hill, the commander of the unit said in his letter that only when men realize that war is immoral will it ever stop. But there's always a moral reason. We're fighting for truth, justice, and the American way. We're fighting for Islam. They always find a reason to kill people. But that's the reality. But if they're going to kill us, I hate to tell you this, but we got to kill them first. I agree with you, Steve. We got to send a message to these people. You take one American life, we're taking 100 of yours. There's nothing more you can say on that, because these people are they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. No, Jeff, yeah, we were at war. You can't change history, but they did it. And today, now they're debating. They made a movie about it now, about the guy, about them reflecting on what they did. And what's done is done. I mean, no, I agree with you, Gene. And they said 70% of the people can't make it into the military today. That even if they wanted to enlist, and we've got a society of that's going down. But I truly believe we should have mandatory military service like they do in Israel, for a reason, because Israel's surrounded by enemies, and everybody has to know how to be able to handle something, a rifle. So everybody at 18 years old goes into the military for 2 years, and is trained. You imagine what a different society we'd have if we took some of these wokies running around Manhattan yelling, "Free Palestine, kill the Jews, gas the Jews." If they took them on a mommy and daddy's basement at 18 Instead of going to Harvard and all the other Cornell and all the rest of these places, if they stuck their ass in the military, plucked them up, put them on a bus, sent them to basic training, gave them 2 years away from home and mommy and daddy, shipped them to anywhere where they can't get home on a weekend, let them spend a couple of Christmases and birthdays and New Year's away from mommy and daddy, it might make them look at the world differently, might make them a little tougher. But this is intentional. They've spent the last 2 or 3 generations since they ended the draft turning these people into malleable wokies. These people got no brain. Whatever TikTok tells them to do, they do. They're nuts. And this is the problem with America. Yeah, you're right. I truly believe, I've been in favor of that for years. I've been saying that for years, that every one of them should go in there.
Hey,
just like they do in Israel. 2 years,
the funny thing is, in this country, we find reasons why people cannot serve.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got asthma, you're diabetic, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. In European countries, you serve, like it or not. If you're diabetic, you get a desk job. If you've got asthma, you get a desk job. They just don't send you into combat. But you serve.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
I don't see why we can't do that.
Well, you just gave the reason. They don't want to. See,
right?
They don't want to. Listen, I know people who are in this country that are Portuguese who came here expressly because their parents didn't want them to get sent to Angola.
Right.
They left the country because they were going to have to go.
That's right.
If they stayed in Portugal, they were going to Angola.
Like it or not.
Like it or not. I don't care what mommy or daddy says. You're gone. You're going to Angola. They had a draft. So they left the country. And look, that's not going to ruin anybody's life. Nobody ever died from being, well, you die if you're going to combat, obviously, or, if you're in a unit where but like CJ said, they can give people with asthma a desk job, but get them away from mommy and daddy. Give them a little discipline. Make them learn how to follow orders, not whine and ask mommy for another cookie. 2 years is not going to ruin anybody's life. Israel, 18 to 20, your whole life's in front of you. And maybe you'll even have a better life because you have a different perspective, a more realistic perspective of the world. Because now they throw you in the Army or the Navy or wherever the hell they send you. And you're in there with people from all over the country. You have to learn about people. You're in there with people from the South, people from California, people from the Midwest, from everywhere. And you see what other people, how they are. They're different way of doing things and stuff. I mean, I remember being with guys, serving with guys that never even saw a lobster. And they'd say, "Oh, you're from New England." He said, "You ever, you ever eat a lobster?" I said, "Yeah, I eat a lobster as often as I can, actually." And he'd go, "Oh, I never had one." And I thought, "Well, when you get out," I said, "I know when you get discharged and they send you over to Fort Hamilton in New York, you'll be on the East Coast." I said, "Have a lobster sometime." And but you learn. It makes you. I'll tell you what. I went to college when I got out on a GI Bill. I'm going to tell you, the thing that had the greatest impression on my perspective of life and reality was the military. Without a moment's hesitation, it changed me for the good, I think. No, you're 100% right, Steve. Very good observation. Very, 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 very good observation. That's true. But as you said, we're different than they are. We can dislike somebody, but still understand that it's not what was done to Rob Reiner was wrong. Yeah, you're right, Gene. I remember the first time I got Cherie sent to me when I was in a service. uh, but yeah, uh, at least we don't have to like somebody, but you can appreciate the loss. I mean, he's got children that are alive now that lost their mother and father because of a cuckoo brother, and we can say that I didn't like any of his political positions. I didn't like basically anything about him. He was everything that I despise. He was a rich elitist who lived in a dream world and condemned everybody whoever had to live in a real world and worry about where they were gonna how they could fix their roof and when they have enough money. I mean, I dislike the guy, but I mean, I what happened to him is wrong. We're not at war here, but they are. You're right, Steve. They are at war with us. They condone killing. They celebrate killing of us. But this is why I don't really see a big unless we've got to purge. First, we've got to purge these illegals, and then we've really got to do some work because some of the people in this country have been brainwashed so badly. I truly fear at some point in time there's going to be a civil war in this country because you can't. There's an old saying, you can't fix stupid. Well, I don't know. You can't fix brainwashed either, unless you put them all in internment camps and deprogram them like they're in a cult, because they are in a cult. They call MAGA people cultists.
Right.
Most of the people I know that are conservatives have a pretty independent minds. That's why most of them are independents. Some of them may be Republicans, but most of them are independents. But they have a independent thought process. But these people are like sheep. They're freaking sheep. You tell them anything. I mean, you got these yo-yos, with gay pride flags yelling, under the Palestinian flag. Hey, fine, you got a gay rights flag, but look, are you morons? Where are you morons? You realize what they do to people who are gay in those countries? They kill them. Throw them off a roof, chop their heads off. I mean, these people, they're just clueless. They're just totally clueless. And you wonder why we have such a mess. And they elect people like Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Rashida Tlaib and all the rest of these people that shouldn't even be in Congress because they're basically anti-American. I mean, now you're carrying freedom of expression and thought too much. You should not be a member of the government if you're anti-government, and they are. So it's a puzzle. I don't know what's going to happen. I just hope they catch this guy in Providence. I mean, I think every hour that goes by, they're working hard, but it's hard. I don't know where they're gonna get a place without cameras and shit. Although somebody said they did have a second video. I just saw something pop up on my phone that they got a. No, you're right, Gene. You are right. You are right. They've been indoctrinating them for years. for decades now. It goes all the way back to when we were puppies, and when Tail Gunner Joe McCarthy, predicted this many, many years ago, and he said, there are communists among us, and they're going to take this country over by taking over the colleges and indoctrinating the students, and they're going to be financed by the rich and the movie industry. And he was 100% right. And they bounced him out of Congress. There was a big Senate. He was a senator. I'm sorry, Senator Joe McCarthy. Read about him. Everything he said came true. And that was in the 1950s sometime. But he predicted it. And he said exactly what happened. And he called him. And a matter of fact, the movie industry hates that name. If you tell that to anybody in the movie industry, it's, the blacklist. He created the blacklist of communist people. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if we can ever stop it, Gene, because how are you going to have a strong parent when they were brought up by weak parents and they become their weak people? So we go ways, Jeff, but they don't use them. Like CJ said, the great point CJ made at the beginning, earlier in the show. It's not, that wasn't a reason. That's an excuse. The doors were left open because it's finals. I don't care what it is. The building should be secured. CJ was right. That's not it. That's not a reason. This happened because it was finals. So that means anybody now knows that in Brown, when you have finals, you can just wander into the place. Do we have the doors closed when they give finals at Durfee? I hope so.
What are you talking about? We can't even get the windows open.
That's true. But I'm saying, I hope they keep the doors open, but you know how they run Durfee. You can have the windows closed and the doors open. Go figure. But it's going to be a tough thing for them. They got supposedly a second video. I don't know how good it is, but maybe that's what that conference was now. I'll watch it later. But no cameras and stuff. They got so much great technology today. You're right, Jeff. They got cameras. They can get them every block. They got the ring cameras on the doors. They can get warrants to look at. They can trace you through, traffic cams and every other kind of cams, but they got to know they got to have a starting point. But now, if the person disappears into an area where there's no cameras, who knows if he didn't change clothes and stuff like that? Who knows if he didn't get on public transportation and go anywhere? All right, Gene says this is basically the same video. A guy walking in black, walking down the street. Well, that's not a hell of a lot better than the other one. But that's the problem. And I sympathize with law enforcement because it really, now I just got something on mine and Gene just got that. And I just said, breaking news, police release new images and video of person sought in Brown University shooting. Okay, CJ, I'm going to look this one up right now because it said images as well as a video. Let me see if we got.
They're showing them on Channel 10, Channel 12, and Channel 6 right now.
Yeah. All right, they're showing a video, but I don't see. I don't see the images.
There's no face.
Oh, wait a minute. I just pulled them up. Seeking information. Yeah, they do have a picture where they actually have a picture of him, side view, and a picture of him, a suspect, it may not be him. He doesn't, although this guy doesn't appear to have a black hoodie on unless it's the color of the picture. But he's actually, you can see somebody walking, but he's got a mask on. He's got a black mask on, and he's got a head. I can't expand this on this one, on this picture. But they do have actual, I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm going to try to hold it up to the camera. Maybe you can. There it is. You can kind of see it. There's one. They are. And the one in the middle is the forward shot. So they got a little bit more anyway. It may not be the individual though, but I mean at least it's something. So the only thing that proves is they're working their asses off on this thing. They're working their asses off, and hopefully they'll get something. So we'll see. We will see. Well, and by the way, CJ, nice Christmas decorations. I hope everybody realizes how hard CJ worked putting all that stuff up.
It's a little bit of addition. And with it being Hanukkah, I don't have Merry Christmas up. I have Happy Holidays. I couldn't find the Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, we couldn't get a menorah.
Couldn't get a menorah. So, Hey, y'all, I want to thank y'all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. And try to stay warm. Wednesday's supposed to be warmer, so hopefully the snow and ice melt. Have a great night. Bye-bye.